It's not like I'm the brightest, I'm the smartest, I'm the most hardworking. There are more hardworking people than me, brighter people than me, smarter people than me. I have gotten lucky.
One interaction can define how your brand is perceived by that individual for the next 10 years' time.
Gaming would be, in the next 10 years, one of the most defining industries in our country.
The younger folk, kids that were in school, right, they had to now learn through digital mediums. And one of the ways that they were learning were through games. You can really engage the masses like I think we've done and we will continue to do.
Bhavin, in terms of what does it mean to, engage with such large community of users and build what a fantastic brand that you build in Games 24/7?
First and foremost, you have to start with your objective. What do you really want to do? Yeah. And in our case at Games 24/7, that always was to engage players and people through games that they've always loved playing. But now let's just do it online. The meaning of doing it online is you can reach out to the masses. And when we started in 2006, when the internet was just sort of coming of age, not many people were on the internet, but the kind of growth we have seen in the adoption of the internet, the smartphones have helped a lot, has been phenomenal. And it is in the last 7 to 8 years that we're seeing that things have, you've just seen that hockey stick kind of growth, right? Where everyone, the first time they're exposed to internet is on their mobile phones. We're literally a mobile first internet country and the largest one at that. So in terms of engaging people, in terms of entertaining people, the internet has obviously provided us with that platform where we could reach out to tons of people. And it comes down to really understanding what your players want. Yes, you can say that I want to engage them through games that they like to play, but what are those games? How do they like to play them? What time do they play? Where are they from? What age group plays them? So really understanding your users is at the helm of everything. Once you understand your users, then you can offer them with the entertainment that they want. And I think that's something that Games 24/7 has done fairly consistently and fairly well, leveraging a lot of technology, a lot of data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, all the terms that we hear very, very frequently now. But bring all of that together and you can really engage the masses like I think we've done and we will continue to do.
To you, Avinash, customer centricity kya hota hai?
If you really look at it, we would want to touch base with every single customer, but then you sort of find it a little difficult once that number crosses 350 million as what we have right now. So technology comes into the leeway. Before everything, I would say that what is customer centricity, is basically something which follows why customer centricity. Today, the customer has a choice like never before. And today, what's really happening across brands is that everybody is driving adjacencies in terms of revenue streams, diversification, but the customer remains the same. That gentleman on the mobile phone.
Yeah.
One interaction can define how your brand is perceived by that individual for the next 10 years' time, right? So that's the why part of customer centricity, why you need to really, really focus. There are basically, 2 or 3 elements, what I loosely call the 5 Ps. How is, firstly, customer centricity is not about addressing a transaction that he's come to you for on a contact center or visiting your store on an app. It's firstly going back and seeing whether the product that you have created serves the customer's need to the very last end, right? So the first P is basically the product. Secondly is the process. We, until about a decade back, maybe less, were focused on customer centricity as a post-sale process. No. Customer centricity starts at the selling part, at your branding part, at your marketing bit as to how are you leaving a message back as far as your customer is concerned. Then your people. People are increasingly beginning to mean much more in an extremely digitized world. People still want to interact with a human because there is a trust element. Did you receive my order? I just want to call up and confirm, right? And how that interaction goes really establishes trust. So people are very important. And then the other two are more related to technology and the spirit, which is how do we use technology to predict the demand of a customer, whether it's a entertainment need, whether it's a need for a certain critical application which needs to go live immediately or needs to sustain, or whether it's some new top-up that I might require as a customer. How do you predict the demand of an individual better? And lastly, the fifth P is how do you proactively resolve it, sometimes without even the customer asking for it or knowing that we have resolved it. So that's the spirit, of the whole element of customer centricity. That's why and how we are sort of driving it.
What are 2-3 things that you're doing right?
So I think what has really helped us do what we have, the 2 or 3 things that you spoke of, right? The first thing is that we believe that amazing companies are built by amazing teams. That it's not the idea that succeeds, it's not the product that succeeds, it's the team that succeeds, right?
Yeah.
So I'm here today because of all the fantastic people that I've worked with, that are part of the team, that have helped us do what we have, right? So I think the team is critical, but the team alone is not enough. You need a team to be bound by a certain set of values, right? A certain operating ethos, right? Which we're calling the science of gaming, right? Where you just asked about and spoke and you spoke of customer centricity, right? We call that user centricity. And for us, user centricity really means that you have to become the user. You have to put yourself in the shoes of the user to really understand what it is that they want. And unless you do that, you cannot really give them what they want. But once you've understood the user, you also have to then understand why do the users want that? Or why are the users behaving the way that they're behaving, right? And we call that why centricity. That is also extremely important in terms of really providing the right kind of solution. And to do all of this, right, to become user-centric, to be why-centric, you obviously have to use a lot of technology, a lot of data, because you're not going to speak to every user to understand or have them talk to you and tell you. There are millions of users. I can't talk to every user and ask them, "Acha, batao, what do you think of this? How is this product? How is this service? How is this platform?" You have to, based on the actions that they're taking on your platform or on your app, try and figure out what they're trying to tell you. Right? That's the best way to really understand your users really well, right? And once you understand them, when you understand why they're doing what they're doing, that's when you can really offer the right solutions. We think it's very important to be objective and goal-oriented. Unless you have an objective, unless you know what you're working towards, unless you can define what you're working towards, you can't really do justice to producing the output that you really need. And then again, like I said, it's very important to be a team player, and creativity is very important. Like you said, there are a lot of gaming companies out there. There are a lot of folks out there, right? What really sets us apart?
Yeah.
Once we understand our players and once we can give them what they want, how do we creatively do that? How do we do that in a way that experience cannot be found elsewhere? Those are some of the things that we look at under this umbrella, under our operating ethos of the science of gaming, to really offer our consumers with experiences that will continue to engage them and keep them coming back.
How are you seeing the Indian gaming industry space grow with a focus on users?
I believe, and I strongly believe this, that gaming is becoming a large part of our lives from very, very early on. Think about, and let's just take the not too distant past where COVID happened, right? It seemed like it happened a long time ago, but it just happened 3 years ago. A lot of people started playing games. That is, obviously, a lot of people had time. They were sitting at home.
Yeah.
There were lockdowns everywhere. People started playing games. But more importantly, what started happening was that the younger folk, kids that were in school, right? They had to now learn through digital mediums. And one of the ways that they were learning were through games. Like math was being taught through games, languages were being taught through games, science was being taught through games, through simulations that they saw digitally. So games were really becoming a big part of even education. Games were becoming a big part of all kinds of experiences that you had online. Like shopping was gamified.
Yeah.
Right. So because gaming was becoming a large part of everything people were doing, I think it got a lot of attention. But in terms of gaming becoming an industry, right, where you can actually generate revenues from such an industry, I think we still have some ways to go. I think right now the kind of games that we see the earlier generations playing are more to meet some objective, some output. Like either you're trying to learn some maths or learn some language, right? So once you're done with that, you're not going to keep coming back and using that game, right? So that engagement with that game is not there. So while I think a time will come when studios that build all kinds of games will do well, right now I don't think it is that time. Right now we're still the age where gaming is offered as a service, where people play to win, and those are the platforms that will continue to do well, at least in the foreseeable future, until the entire ecosystem evolves. It is fairly nascent, like you rightly said.
Yeah, but interesting times. And
They are.
yeah, and I'm very hopeful that gaming would be in the next 10 years one of the most defining industries in our country. Yeah.
That is actually the goal, the hope. Our honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, has laid out a vision for $1 trillion digital economy in the next 2 years by 2025. And we strongly believe that gaming will play a major role in that happening, that being that coming true.
For businesses, what would you say? What are some of the interesting, if you could share with us, that is, interesting scenarios or cases that you've seen that where businesses have leveraged user engagement, user reach out very effectively through your platform?
Yes, we have, by virtue of always remaining connected to the device in your pocket, we do have tremendous amount of data that we get to know. Of course, most of it is signaling. We use, for example, the mobile phone interacts, even if we have not made a single phone call or SMS or WhatsApp message application, the mobile phone interacts 60 to 70 times in a day with the network. We use to basically plan our networks, to basically, the whole game is to understand through this data that is coming about, what does the customer need, right? I emphasize on that. I mentioned that earlier. So what Airtel does is, through deep technology, we have a data science team here, right here in Bangalore. Through other tools, we analyze, rich amount of data to understand demands, understand needs. Do you want to make a phone call now? Do you want to watch a movie? Is it a casual movie or is it a serious application? Like, are you trying to get into a call with a client in the US? Are you trying to interact with a loved one on a WhatsApp call or a video call? We understand all that. Now, one of the things, our goal as an organization is to reduce the amount of transaction that our customers have, not to increase it. We are really concerned about the fact that there is so much of spam on a mobile phone which the individual gets, whether it's SMS, phone call, that is demeaning, that is reducing the validity of the product at the end of the day. So we pick up data and do 2 or 3 things. One is, firstly, we help brands to reach the right audience by creating cohorts. Very interesting cohorts, not the simple cohorts that you really get from usual digital media, but it's unique. We help them identify. Secondly, we help enrich the data to specific demands of that specific brand, saying that, okay, for example, there is a cohort. Let's say you want to target housewives for a certain something, above 35 years of age. We add more color to it, understanding the product of what the brand is trying to offer, and reduce the transactions such that it goes to the individual just when the individual needs it. Now, mind you, all these customers of ours are paying customers. This is our primary business. we wouldn't want to disrupt the life of our own paying customer by sending him 10, 20 more messages just because there is, a brand behind us who's interested to do so. So we use analytics to exactly pinpoint the need of a customer. Of course, technology, as I said, plays a important role, will continue to play an increasing role, because most of the data that we have is yet to be harnessed, from a point of view of big data analytics or, the data science, which we are in the process of continuously doing. And as and when each parameter aspect of data comes, to usable format, it leads to another richness of the message that you're trying to, create, the data that you're trying to send out to, the cohorts that you're trying to reach out. Today, sending messages to an individual is very, very easy with LLM, AI, and so many, apps to reach out to. The issue is not about that. The issue is about how to reach out to, issue is about whom to reach out and when exactly for what.
Yes.
This is the journey that we are participating in as such.
How do you help all these marketeers and all these brands when they keep spamming that at what time they should reach out and how they should reach out?
Interestingly, I was reading an article wherein 75% of these messages which come to you are not from the brand, as such. They are from some partner or some individual who's trying to, offer you a certain something. Loan, for example. Most of the calls on loans are not coming in from the bank, for example. They're coming from an agency and they have no data, no way to figure out who to call or whom not to. The other thing which has become very current is sort of a fraud, wherein spurious agencies are trying to represent the brand under a pseudonym which is similar looking. Right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Especially the sender ID that you have, which lands up on your phone,
Yeah.
is, instead of HDFC, it's got HDFS, for example, and you sort of trust it that it is, HDFC. What we are trying to do is we are trying to control that through our own platforms, trying to make the brand messaging far more authentic, trying to give the user a sense to differentiate as to what is real and what is not real. For example, and there's a live example, there's a very large bank, private bank in India, wherein we control all messages going to our users from that bank or from anybody who's going out with a similar user ID. And we clip it at the back end. We filter it. We do not allow similar looking cohorts, similar looking names to be rolled out to our users as such. So that bank sort of knows a little more that, at least for Airtel users, the right message is going out from the right, sender ID per se. These are the few things that we're trying to do as far as working with brands are concerned.
Yeah. And I'll come back to you with this question that how can all brands work? Because whenever I think of Airtel, I think बहुत पैसा होना चाहिए. Of course, I would love to work. Everyone would love to work with Airtel because of the reach and the way you stand as a company and the reach that you have. But it feels like Airtel would be very expensive.
Naturally, we are attracted to a typical organization which has some degree of volume, which has something which is interesting to do, which has a real big problem to solve. As a set of people that we have in the organization, we are attracted towards that. The whole game, as I said, is to reduce the net outflow of the organization by reducing the number of messages that are gone out. Targeting helps you get there. It's not the cost for message. A cost for message might be a 10% higher or a 10% lower. I don't really know compared to whoever else. But the idea is if we can help you determine that 20% of your customers are no longer active on a network, right? Or another 5% of your customers are not in the country, or another 10% have switched to something else in life, or there are some category of customers who never respond. We reduce the interaction.
Yeah.
That's win-win. Mind you, we as a telco want to reduce the amount of messaging which is going to the end user, because our own products like SMS, voice, etc. need to become increasingly authentic and not something which is spurious in terms of an avenue of communication. So we work the brand to reduce the interaction. Unlike, some of the other operators, with all due respect to them, they believe in driving volume. More the volume, the better it is, because they are being, the end customer is not their own, and their business is volume into cost, as such. Our business is not about that. Our first, focus is the consumer that we have, who's our customer. And then comes the brand who wants to reach them out. So these are the few things that we are, doing. And it's very interesting. Today, the biggest thing that is on as far as the industry need is concerned, how do I reach the right person effectively better than anybody else?
Yeah.
And how do I basically control this fraud element which comes up? It's right at the center of conversations with banks, with retail organizations, with e-commerce organizations. And we are sort of helping the industry come to a common platform to address that.
What are one or two things that you think as a company, as a startup, as you as founders have done right to get to this scale?
One of the things that I think we've done well is to focus. Define our objective very clearly कि करना क्या है.
Yeah.
And then उसी पे focus करते हैं, वही करते हैं. The temptation, right, when you're a small gaming company starting out, right? So we started out with Rummy, and we were also offering chess. Not many people know this, but to take a decision to say that, okay, there are 2 games here, but even out of those 2, we will only focus on one game. And really become that 800-pound gorilla in that one game before we decide to do something else was something that I think has worked well. But on the flip side, could we have entered fantasy sports sooner than we did? We entered in 2019, which is like 4 years ago, right? Fantasy sports has been around for a while now. Could we have entered that? Now, there is no right or wrong answer there, right? The reason we entered it when we did is because the High Court had ruled that it is a game of skill, and therefore we found the confidence to enter it, and we entered it. Rummy has had that precedent for a very long time.
Yeah.
And despite that, we were facing issues with Rummy, but our ability to focus, I think, has really helped us. And second thing which is related is to really to very clearly define your goal. Ki this is my goal, this is what I want to do, and then I'm going to leave no stone unturned to do this. Instead of saying, I've gotten 3/4 of the way there, now let me see if I can do something else.
Yeah.
So even when we started our fantasy sports division, we built an entirely separate team for that. There was no mix between Rummy and fantasy because that focus for us was very important. That even if we take up another game, we have to have a dedicated team just working on them. The technology team was separated out. The customer service team was separated out. The product team was separated out. Everything was separated out. The analytics team was separated out to just focus on fantasy sports. And I think that is the reason why in a short time of 2 to 3 years from going live, we were the distinct number 2 player in that space. Right? When we entered, there were 100 plus fantasy sports operators in India. Today, there are a handful. You can count them on your fingers. And we're the number 2 platform. It's primarily and precisely because of our ability to focus and say that this is all we're going to do right now. This is the team that is mandated with doing this. And this is all that they're going to focus on.
Do you know, but Bhavin, there's such an important point you're making. Because when you have scale, which you reach with Rummy, it's very easy to push 10 things, and what Avinash was also saying, that like you can matlab sab kuch khilao, matlab ab hai mere paas users.
You make a very interesting point because it's not that you shouldn't do that. So we do that. So we have Rummy, we have fantasy sports. Now we've started poker. Using all the data that we have, using all the analysis that we've done, we've also been able to figure out that which player who is coming on our fantasy sports platform wants to play Rummy, wants to play Carom, which is another game that we were offering, wants to play poker. So that's how we are leveraging data in cross monetization, leveraging data in a way, technology in a way to figure out what does this user really want and how we can give that to him. So focus, number 1, and then leveraging technology, obviously, to try and give them exactly what they want.
Game streaming. So I'm hearing that there, in China and other parts of the world, it's big streaming. Like I'm playing a game and there are platforms which stream it. What do you have to say about that? And are you looking at getting into it?
So I think that has a very bright future. I'm going to go back to what I said slightly earlier, that gaming is very nascent in India.
Yeah.
right? I think gaming needs to come a little bit more of age. You need to have, we haven't attained that critical mass where users or where players or people want to watch other people play, right? In the tier one cities, or in more developed countries even, that phenomenon is a lot more prominent.
Yeah.
I know right now a lot of 10, 11 year olds, they like to watch other people playing so that then they can go improve their games. India is not there yet in terms of the proportion of players as a percentage of its population. The percentage of players that we have that are doing that is still very small, and therefore, can streaming become a viable business? I think absolutely. Is it a viable business right now? Maybe there is some way to go for it to get there.
If I have Airtel on my side as my partner, how can I reach a large set of users in an interesting way? Is there some interesting use case that you can share with us?
Yes. So, taking a step back, firstly, what we represent in this country largely is the high value, serious customer. I mean, for example, most businessmen, most working professionals use, Airtel. Bhavin, you're on Airtel?
Yeah.
Like the four of us, three of us are on, Airtel, for
Very
example.
serious people.
Yeah, yeah. As against some of the mass consumption as such, we are trying to sort of get into that space. But today, the most serious high value customer is on a network. Therefore, these have high buying power. They're also very discerning in terms of the decisions that they make. And they don't want to be, as I really mentioned earlier, they don't like to be solicited without, in an untimely way, in a way which is not really to the liking.
Yeah.
This is where we step in. So we have rich amount of data, which I already mentioned. We create cohorts out of it. There are some 30, 35 cohorts which we already created. Every few months we add more cohorts. And then we bring in flavors what the brand wants to really chase as such. Few examples are, without naming the organization, there's a large e-commerce organization which started groceries. And we help them, as I mentioned earlier, to target women above 35 years of age, around 35 years of age, non-working, right? Non-working women in a very interesting manner. And we found ourselves to be the most efficient model from a return on investment, point of view. And we also received appreciation from the women that we ended up targeting, that this is something interesting, it is useful for me, I needed this, it solved a big problem. There is a ride-hailing organization, right, which brought up which wanted to target a segment of population between 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock, which is when cars are basically lying idle. So we helped identify, for example, retired personnel who travel often between a certain point to a certain point within the city. Again, individuals who go shopping between a certain point in time. And we help them migrate their fleets completely to these specific spots and drove increased, utilization of the fleet at the end of the day. Similarly, we help loaning organizations reach loans to people who need it most. For example, in the peripheries of cities, this is my favorite example for a few years back. There is a driver, a category called a driver, who wanted to buy a vehicle and become a truck owner, driving his own truck, a mini truck. We help this loaning company identify those, individuals. Similarly, there is a hairdresser, or let me call a barber, working in a small little shop who decided to open his own, setup. He needed a little loan. We helped, this brand to reach out to that specific individual for a 15,000 rupees loan, 20,000 rupees loan, so that he can rent, do up a facility, buy some instruments, and get going. Similarly, there are tremendous amount of examples of a similar, nature, wherein we help our customers reach brands and vice versa.
Tell me, if I had to look inside your manifesto of running a business and running the attention and the good and the bad attention also that comes along with being an entrepreneur, how do you navigate? How do you look at this?
So I'm a big believer in the fact that everything that happens to you in one way, shape, or form is a probabilistic event. What that means to me as a layman is that luck plays a very big part in where we are and where we end up. It's not like I'm the brightest, I'm the smartest, I'm the most hardworking. There are more hardworking people than me, brighter people than me, smarter people than me. I have gotten lucky. Right? Lucky in meeting the right people at the right time, being part of a fantastic team that has been able to deliver, met the right people along the way that enabled us to be able to get the payment gateways that helped us start the business, to then people at Google and Facebook that helped us advertise early on. And because that is so entrenched in me that along the way I have gotten lucky a lot, I feel that it's very important to be grounded, right? It's very important to know that as good luck has come to you, bad luck will also come to you. And we've had our fair share. Before the show started, we were talking about all the stuff that the industry is going through. And there will be ups and downs. But as long as you're grounded and as long as you focus on what you have to do, you will sail through. That's my strong belief, and that has helped me in good stead so far.
What are one or two things the organization has done which we all can pick up?
I think, as was pointed out, it's a belief that good luck is going to come to you in the future. It's hard work and perseverance to ensure your chances of that luck improves, and is simply remaining true and honest to your end purpose, once it's clear to you. Telecom has been through a massive roller coaster, as all of us know. But one fine day, 95% of the business, about 6-7 years back was voice. And one fine day, voice was free. 16 operators folded, shop.
Yeah.
But Airtel was, one single brand which believed that there is a turnaround coming up in exactly 3 years' time. And you remain focused on your customer, firstly, your purpose, and drive it with great degree of zeal and energy, along with, your entire ecosystem, your people, your partners. And sooner than later, that the 36th month from that time arrived, and we saw a massive turnaround, and we continue to ride that wave. But in our successes, I think we remain firstly very grounded, very humble, and we attribute our success to the loyalty of our customer. We work day and night to ensure that that loyalty remains. The second is, of course, our people. It's a bunch of people which run the organization, no single individual. These are the few things which have sort of driven us, again, being grounded and humble and focused on our customer, as such. We don't get carried away with some great technology which is coming in, which somebody else comes and, offers it. We firstly try and relate it to the customer need, right? Our business models are very simple, straightforward, mostly pointed at delighting a certain degree of, customer, improving their service. Our brand also communicates the exact same value. Our leadership uniquely walks this on a daily, weekly basis. I must share this, unique example about, Airtel, which I attribute one of the major reasons why Airtel is succeeding. Gopal Vittal, who's a group CEO and MD, he has his weekly OpsCom, board meetings, operating meetings and stuff like that. Every week, 2 days in the week, he's traveling, the country. He doesn't spend time in reviews too often. He walks the streets and talks to customers, talks to retailers. Even till today.
Yeah.
So next week when he's back for his review, he has a full-fledged first-hand, sense of what the customer is up to. All of us do the same thing. He's a great example to lead by. And once the leader in the organization does something like this, everybody else has, exhilarated, inspired to follow, that ethos.
I'm sure both of you will also be happy if this inspires many to focus, to think, to be grounded, and win their customers.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us here.
Thank you.